Hey, bud. This is bedtime book. Let's see, page 392 for Monday night. All right, all in favor of the DA, said Hermione bossily, kneeing up to her cushioned account. That's a majority. Motion passed. She pinned the pieces of paper with their names on it to the wall and wrote Dumbledore's Army across the top in large letters. Right, said Harry, when she had sat down. Shall we get practicing then? I was thinking the first charm we should do is Expelliarmus, the disarming charm. I know it's pretty basic, but I found it really useful. Oh, please, said Zachariah Smith, rolling his eyes and folding his arms. I don't think Expelliarmus is exactly what's going to help us against you-know-who, do you? I've used it against him, said Harry quietly. It saved my life last June. Smith opened his mouth stupidly. The rest of the room was very quiet. But if you think it's beneath you, you can leave, said Harry. Smith did not move, nor did anybody else. Okay, said Harry, his mouth drier than usual with all those eyes upon him. I reckon we should divide into pairs and practice. It felt very odd to be issuing instructions, but not nearly as odd as seeing them followed. Everybody got to their feet at once and divided up. Predictably, Neville was left partnerless. You can practice with me, said Harry. Right. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. The room was suddenly full of shouts of Expelliarmus. Wands flew in all directions, mist spells hit the books on shelves and sent them flying into the air. Harry was too quick for Neville, whose wand went spinning out of his hand, hit the ceiling with a shower of sparks, and landed in a clatter on top of a bookshelf, from which Harry retrieved it with the summoning charm. Glancing around, he thought he had been right to suggest they practice the basics first. There's a lot of shoddy spell work going on. Many people were not succeeding in disarming their opponents at all, but merely causing them to jump backwards a few paces or wince at the feeble spell whooshed past them. Expelliarmus, said Neville, and Harry, caught unawares, felt his wand fly out of his hand. I did it, said Neville gleefully. I'd never done it before. I did it. Good one, said Harry, encouragingly. Deciding not to point out that a real duel situation, Neville's opponent would be unlikely to be staring at the opposite direction with his wand held loosely at his side. Listen, Neville, can you take turns to practice with Ron and Hermione for a couple minutes so I can walk around and see how the rest are doing? Harry moved off to the middle of the room. Something very odd was happening to Zachariah Smith. Every time he opened his mouth to disarm Anthony Goldstein, his own wand would fly out of his hand, yet Anthony did not seem to be making a sound. Harry did not have to look far for the solution of a mystery, however. Fred and George were several feet from Smith and taking turns pointing their wands at his back. Sorry, Harry, said George hastily, when Harry caught his eye. Couldn't resist. Harry walked around the other pairs, trying to correct those who were doing the spell wrong. Ginny had teamed up with Michael Corner. She was doing very well, whereas Michael had either very bad or unwilling to jinx her. Ernie Macmillan was flourishing his wand unnecessarily, giving his partner time to get under his guard. The Creevy brothers were enthusiastic but erratic and mainly responsible for all the books leaping off the shelves around them. Luna Lovegood was similarly patchy, occasionally sending Justin Finch Fletchley's wand spinning out of his hand, and other times merely causing his hair to stand on end. Okay, stop! Stop! I need a whistle, he thought, and immediately spotted one lying on top of the nearest row of books. He caught it up and blew hard. Everyone lowered their wands. That wasn't bad, said Harry, but there's definitely room for improvement. Zachariah Smith glared at him. Let's try again. He moved off around the room, stopping here and there to make suggestions. Slowly, the general performance improved. He avoided going near Cho and her friend for a while, but after walking around twice around every other pair of the room, he felt he could no longer avoid them. Oh, no, said Cho rather wildly as he approached. Expelliarmus. Oh, I'm sorry, Marietta. Her curly-haired friend's sleeve had caught on fire. Marietta extinguished it with her own wand and glared at Harry as though it was his fault. You made me nervous. I was doing it right before then, Cho said to Harry. It was quite good, Harry lied. But when she raised her eyebrows and said, well, no, it was lousy, but I know you can do it properly. I was watching from over there. She laughed. Her friend Marietta looked at them rather sourly and turned away. Don't mind her, said Cho. She doesn't really want to be here, but I made her come with me. Her parents have forbidden her to do anything that might upset Umbridge, you see. Her mom works for the ministry. What about your parents? Said Harry. Well, they've forbidden me to go to the wrong side of Umbridge, too, said Cho, drawing herself up proudly. But if they think that I'm not going to fight you-know-who after what happened to Cedric. She broke off, looking rather confused, and an awkward silence fell between them. Terry Boots' wand went whizzing past Harry's ear and hit Alicia Spinnet in the nose. Well, my father was very supportive of any anti-ministry action, said Luna Lovegood, proudly, just behind Harry. Evidently she had been eavesdropping on the conversation while Justin Finch Fletchley attempted to disentangle himself from the robes that had flown over his head. He's always saying he'd believe anything of Fudge. I mean, the number of goblins Fudge has had assassinated. And of course, he uses Department Ministries to develop terrible potions, which he feeds secretly to anyone who disagrees with him. And then there's the Umbugular / Kilter. Don't ask, Harry muttered to Cho as she opened her mouth, looking puzzled. She giggled. Hey, Harry, Hermione called from the other end of the room. Have you checked the time? He looked down at his watch and received a shock. It was already 10 past 9, which meant they'd need to get back to their common rooms immediately or risk being caught and punished by Filch for being out of bounds. All right, love you, bud.